Paul, so a huge game this weekend. How's the week been? How have preparations gone?
No, it's been nice. Good week. Managed to get quite a few 11v11s in, which I think will hopefully help some of the players that maybe have joined a little bit later or not had too many minutes. Always nice on the back of a win as well. So it's been a nice atmosphere around the place, and obviously now, I just mentioned, it's not lost on us. A big game in terms of, I think, bragging rights, rivalry. From my point of view, it's a game to try and build on last week. It just happens to be against, Wrexham.
How much has that win last week sort of boosted confidence throughout the squad?
It looks like it. And confidence is a strange thing in life, but in football, in terms of you can see one player 1 week and it's amazing how suddenly, a goal or, a good performance, a couple of good actions can suddenly make them look like a totally different person. So we want to try and harness that and embrace it as much as we can. But it can easily be lost. It's usually a bit harder to get back, but like I say, it does overall come and go very quickly, and we want to try and bring the best team performance to games, but also as individuals which help contribute to that.
I think, like you mentioned, it was a good team performance, being patient without the ball, being effective with the chances you do get. But sort of how important was it to get just that win under the belt? Because obviously that was your first league win since the middle of March.
Yeah, I think it is, and more just for this group, not too bothered about last season as in the time frame, but more just a new squad together, a new start, and you always want to try and get that first win as soon as possible, because the longer it goes without it, then we are talking about confidence, and I think we've already touched on it, even though it's been really early stages of the season and still is. But pleasing for that, and also pleasing for the fans. And I have to say, I was really pleased for the chairman on the day as well. Makes everyone's weekend that little bit better. And like I said, a nice sort of feeling around the place throughout the week. And I guess we couldn't have asked for a better time to get that, going into this game.
Obviously, you touched on this a bit in your answer to my first question, but obviously it's the fixture. One of the fixtures fans will point out at the start of the season. How do you sort of get the message across to players of how much this means? Because obviously a lot of them aren't from around here, so they might not understand it.
Yeah.
Just maybe like Tom Bloxham, who has lived in Shrewsbury for years. But so how do you get that message across to them without sort of putting a lot of pressure on them at the same time?
Yeah, I think, I certainly hope that we're pretty good at that in terms of not making them feel under pressure. But at the same time, we have stressed the importance and what it means to people of Shrewsbury. I wasn't here last year, but I can remember watching the game, and I can remember reading quite a few articles and things like that online around the fixture. And it certainly isn't lost on us, that's for certain. But at the same time, you've got to control emotions. You need to be very careful. We want people to be fully committed. We want people, if the opportunity is there, to be flying into tackles, being competitive, all of those things. But there's a line, as we know, and we can't cross that and make what's going to be a tough game as it is more difficult than it already is. And that controlling your emotion is part and parcel of it. And I'd like to think we haven't overhyped it. But like I said, certainly stressed to the squad as a whole, because as you said, some people might not be, totally aware of it. It's not, I think, the most obvious rivalry for people who aren't from here. But like I said, we are aware, and what we are looking forward to certainly is that challenge in the atmosphere. That'll be, we've sold out. I would imagine it'll be a sellout full stop, if not very close to. So it'll be a great atmosphere to be part of.
They've made a strong start to the season, of course. And they're a side who like to also play without the ball as well. Have you sort of had a good look at them? What have you made of their start to the season?
Yeah, I think I take your point, and you're right. If you look at possession stats and things, but I think they are comfortable when they haven't got the ball. But I wouldn't say that they always choose that. It's sometimes the state of the games that they've been involved in, the opposition that they've faced. They've faced two of the teams we have in Peterborough and Bolton that we know want to dominate the ball and often do. But they can play. What I would think they are is a team that are good at mixing it up. They're not frightened to get the ball from back to front. But I think it was a second goal against Reading shows what they're capable of. An excellent goal from one end of the pitch to the other. And they've got a group of, in the main, experienced players that know how to win. Haven't been through too much adversity. It certainly as a group, and the ones that have been there for the last 2 seasons are used to winning, and it looks like a team that know how to win games. So they're all the things that we're going to have to try and overcome to get the result that we want. But I think that, like I said, they'll mix it up, and they have made a good start. So a little bit different than some of the teams we've faced today, I would suggest. But there's always different ways to win games of football, and they've certainly been good at it.
It's not been easy regarding injuries these opening few weeks of the season. I want to start with Josh Feeney. Obviously, you mentioned he will still be a couple of weeks to come. How's sort of his recovery going? He's still in contact with Aston Villa as well? As he's still going back there?
He's been with us this week, but overall he's making really good progress. So we're hopeful that he will be back very soon. And the main thing for him is he's desperate to get back playing. From that point of view, being impressed as I can be with him, without him showing me on the pitch, really what he's capable of. But excited to get him back out there because he's one of the first signings that we'd agreed, but had to be patient, and then obviously suffered that injury. But I'm sure he'll go on and show everyone that he's a good player. You
mentioned you're doing 11v11 in training. Was he able to get involved in that, was he?
Not as much as we would have liked, but he has been out on the grass this week, that's what I would say. So that is a step in the right direction.
Jordan Rossiter, what's the latest on him?
Jordan was out on the grass today, very gentle jogging, to the point I think I could have probably kept up with him. But again, we weren't expecting anything different. The sort of schedule with him we're on schedule. I think back end of next week, he might be able to just get back involved in training, if not the following week, which again is the timescale we expected.
Cole Winchester obviously missed the game against Leyton Orient. How's he?
Should be okay. Should be okay.
It's good news.
Yes, definitely.
Josh Cody?
Josh won't be available to us. Had a little go this week, but has felt his cough, so he's going for a scan today, just to try and get to the bottom of what that is. It's been a bit of a funny one for the medical team because he's the pain seemed to have moved a little bit, so we just want to see if we can get an answer from the scan that would then give us a better idea of either how long he's out or probably a better phrase to see how quickly we can get him back involved.
Are there any fresh injury concerns through the week? Or?
No, all good. So I think we're hoping that we can get a full 18 involved tomorrow. Give us some options to choose from, and I always say it, but the bench could be extremely important. It was nice last week, touching on that Tom Bloxham came on and got the goals. John came on as well. I think did we make one more sub? Can't remember off the top of my head, but for some reason it came in my head in the week that I know towards the back end of last season I was still getting asked the question about there hadn't been a goal from a substitute. We were the only team I think in the country that hadn't scored a goal off the bench. Eventually we got one. But at least we put that to bed a lot sooner this year, and you need it. The bench for me now is far more important than it was years ago when you were almost at a point where players only got on if there was an injury or you wanted to time waste or something like that, whereas now You know, I think it can be a bit of a game changer, whether it's just fresh legs, whether it's change of formation. So that was pleasing that we got that contribution last week.
Just on Tom Bloxham, it's not, maybe he's gone as well in terms of goal scoring record as he'd have liked at Shrewsbury. When he does score, he seems to only score worldies. What's that done for his confidence in the week? You sort of know he's sort of been a bit chin up a bit more in training.
I think Tom's relatively consistent in his mood and everything, to be honest with you. Gets very frustrated with himself when things don't go the way that he wants, and some of that can be self-inflicted sometimes. Some of it, I think he has to understand you're not going to get everything right all the time. But you're right, most of his goals have been pretty spectacular. I think that's the one thing we're kind of keen for him, and have been since coming in, is especially if he's, well, whichever position he's in, but certainly from a wide area when the ball's on the opposite side of the pitch, trying to make sure that he's in a goal scoring position when the ball's crossed, coming in the box. I think he can have a much more of a attacking instinct to his play. I look at him sometimes on corners, he's in there to move to try and get on the end of it, and I've watched some recently where he's backing off towards the edge of the box before there's any real sort of chance of thinking about going and heading it. Now, not that I probably would ever have been assigned him to mark, but if you're marking him, you're delighted to see him heading away from goal. So I think he's got to try and add these things into his game, because the spectacular is fantastic and eye-catching, but it won't happen as often as what maybe tap-ins will. So, you know, that's the sort of thing we want to add to his game.
Just finally, two obviously players away of international duty this weekend, Luca Hall and Aaron Pierre.
Yeah.
So you made a lot of the numbers, but you sort of, when players do go away on international break, do you sort of keep across their progress there as well?
Yeah, we will do. I'm not just saying it, and look, we know what it is, and it's not an excuse. We're talking before the game, all of that. I'm not sure that the 3-player rule particularly works for a club like ours. Yeah. You know, we've got a small squad, that 2 players still impacts our squad. Whereas, you know, if you've got 25, 28 players, you can probably get away with it a lot more. And if you've got a much higher budget, so it's not ideal in truth. But like I said, I'm not bringing that up as an excuse. I'm just not. I don't know if it's a bit out of date. 3 players, you know, that rule that's been, I guess, with us for some time. But often rules are changed as things progress. So something perhaps people a lot higher up than me should perhaps look at.
When do you expect them to be back?
For the next game, yeah, back end of next week.
Cool. Go well tomorrow.
Thank you very much.